Hi, let us again come back and continue with the leftover portion, that is cookies. Let us all get back and just finish off the part on cookies, and then we can move for MRs. Yes, we are back again. Like we are left out with a small part on cookies, and I'll finish off, and then everything you can take out in the MR, right? And then we will again resume at 3:45. Okay. Okay. See, each session requested URL. I told you that session can be tracked from different places. Like we can track the session using, basically it is done using the cookie. Okay, the session cookie which is created, it is J session ID. So we generally track the session on the basis of the cookie that we create. But in case there can be situation that let's say a user does not want to save the cookies, disable the cookie feature, then what would happen? Then we will be able to connect to the websites, or the websites can maintain our session records on the basis of URL writing, right? So how, if somebody has to know about the status, like whether the web container is maintaining the cookie session information using which technique, so we can call a method called is session requested from URL or is session requested from cookie, etc. So these are methods which are called upon the request object. Okay, and once we call, we can get to find the Boolean answer. Okay, whether it is true or false. Right now, I guess it is clear to you now. I'm coming to Srijita, and we will continue with this. Well, let us again start off. Now, so far we were discussing about session. So, see, state of managing state can be done in two ways. Managing state can be done in two ways. One, we can do with the help of client side. The client side state management we can do, and number two, server side state management, right? So client side state management is done by cookie, because the data that you are saving, the data that you are storing is actually saved in the client side, and the data that you are actually saving on the server side can be done with the help of session, because the session variable will not get created on the client side, it will get created on the server side. So if this is your server, you will save the session variable in the server memory. Whereas if you are talking about cookies, now cookie will be saved in the client's computer in form of a file. So the memory utilization is happening on whose side? On the client side. Hold on for a second. So the memory utilization is happening where? On the client's computer. Whereas the sessions are getting created, the memory is getting released or allocated on the server side. Okay, for session objects, right? Now, sometimes we can tell our students in this way that whenever we send a URL to the server for some, let's say, to some web application for the first time, maybe the URL will carry some kind of data related to user's choice and preference. Let's say user will give data as say category equals to say books. So category books is going to be sent along with the URL. So this data will be say for instance, let me put it in this way. Just have a look at this. Say the user first sends a URL like this to the server for accessing a page. Say the URL wants to access the first page called home. Okay. So home page is rendered to the user. Fine. Now user enters some data over here. Let's say user enters a data like books. Okay, this is the choice which user wants to see. Now by clicking onto the submit button, a next request will be sent to the server. So this request will actually consist of what? This request will consist of the category books. So the server is going to check what was the requirement. The server will check the requirement is books. So this is the data. So they will fetch those pages which relates to this book. Let's say they will fetch a page which will have all the book related information. Right? Now this book is delivered to the user. Fine. Now along with this book, the category information that user has chosen, the book category is also specified. Again I am repeating, user has accessed the URL which is number 1. User has accessed the home page which is number 2. The home page is being given back to the user. So no, at that point of time cookies are not created. Now what happens is user enters some choice that okay, he wants to access the book related details. So he has entered book and then again the request got sent to the server. This is 3. Again the request got sent to the server. Now server will evaluate that okay, this is the category and there are pages related to this. So the server will generate the book page where all the book related stuffs are given. Now again the response for this book is sent back to the user. Now let's assume that here we have all the book related details. But along with this web page, the server has also passed a category. The server has also passed a category data which was sent. Now this data which the server is going to pass along with the response is known as a cookie. So this cookie information is sent along with the response to the browser. Now the browser will download the cookie and will save it in, let's say, some folder. We will say it is a file, but the file gets expired. Okay, the utilization of the memory happens on the client side, but there is a time limit. We cannot keep on saving cookies for say number of years and so on and so forth. We have a expiry time, right? So that we are coming to that. So let's assume that our cookie is sent, let's say, and like Trijita, according to you, let's say we have said before sending the cookie, we have set a name of the cookie. We have set the time when the cookie has to be expired, and the value, accordingly the cookie object has been sent to the browser. Now the cookie object thing will remain in the browser as long as the time is valid. The day when the time gets expired, the existence of the cookie will be nullified. There will not be any existence of the cookie, right? Now what happens is, say as long as the cookie is there, let's say for 2 days the cookie will be available, right? So within the period of 2 days, whenever the user comes back to the same web page, right, automatically the server will be able to recognize that okay, you are the one who had actually asked for a category called book. So the server can easily identify the user's choice and show him the relevant contents. Just the way if in YouTube or maybe in Flipkart or in different sites, when we ask when we go and search certain videos, maybe songs, and we go for, let's say, searching some shopping, say some or shopping sites, we access different products and just check, and that will come out. We don't really, let's say, purchase, and our choice and preferences are actually saved in a cookie, and it is posted along with the response to our system. Now next time again, when the URL is sent within that time limit, within 2 days, what happens? The cookie data is being utilized by the server. The server easily identifies you have a choice and preference of books. So let us, instead of showing other pages, let us show you those pages of where you will find book related stuffs are given. Right? That means what? People will be more interested to know that yes, the choices and preferences are maintained by the server. But how is it maintained? It is maintained with the help of the cookie. But let's assume that you are accessing the same site after, say, some 10-20 days, or maybe after a month or so. Okay, after, say, 1 month. What happens? Automatically the cookie information will be expired by then. Then again, whatever browsing you will do over here, according to that, again a new cookie would be saved. So in a way, cookies are useful, but it also has some pros and cons. Like I was telling you that cookie is saved on the client side, so we cannot always rely on the cookie data. Because let's assume that we are saving cookie information for persisting username, password, and some sensitive information, right? So some passcodes, etc. So if it is accessible to any user from our own local system, then they can easily read the cookie details, they can tamper it, they can modify it, right? They can steal it, okay, they can delete it as well. So in that way, our sensitive information might go for a toss. So that's why what we might do is we might go for keeping information which are not sensitive, like choice and preference, maybe themes for a web page. Like say you want to save a theme for a particular site, whenever you log in, the theme details will be saved in your cookie. So that is okay, that can be afforded, right? Because these are less sensitive informations. So wherein and there are some problems also, like we cannot rely for sensitive information on cookie. Separately, there can be issues that a cookie is always going to be, let's say, saved in the client side. So if the browser, it depends on the browser also, if it does not support, then the site, even if the site wants to send some cookie along with the responses, it will not be accessed. It will be, it will not never get downloaded on the client's browser. So it is not important, or we can say it is not, safe for us to keep the sensitive information or details of the user in form of cookie. And we cannot, there are n number of sites the users are actually accessing day by day. So all the information, if you keep in the cookie, there can be systems crashing at any given point of time. Maybe the cookie data will also be lost, right? So we cannot completely depend on it, but whenever small amount of data is concerned, less important data are concerned, which are unnecessarily going to occupy a lot of resources on the memory, on the server. If such things are there, then we can store some fragments of information, smaller information on the cookie, right? So let us have a look at this. So our demonstration, I hope till this much, is it clear to all of you? A cookie will have, I will just have a look at the demonstration and a small API detail I will have to specify. Is it clear to all of you? Okay, so let us just have a look at this. Just have a look at the projection window. Here we are going to create a cookie. So what we are doing is we are creating hold on for a second. Set cookie servlet. This is there. So when we click over here, we have created basically two servlets. One is set cookie, another is read cookie. So set cookie is responsible for taking inputs from a form, and it will create a cookie and post it in its response to our site. To our computer. Right? Now, next time, let's say in the same site, I want to access another particular, let's say, page. Then I have to resend the cookie to the particular page in the URL, so which will be automatically sent. Just have a look at this. We have set cookie servlet and read cookie. So set cookie is the one which will be executing against this index.jsp page. So index page is going to accept some user input and it will be sent to the servlet. So if we come over here, what happens is our cookie is getting created and we are giving it a name as first name. Okay, the name of the cookie, whenever you create a cookie, the cookie is basically going to be created as an object of the cookie class, right? So there are two cookies we are creating, first name cookie and last name cookie. The first name will store the value of first name, right? And the first name will be entered by the index page. So from there we are retrieving the parameters, right? The second case also, last name cookie object is created and the name of the cookie is last_name, and we are going to fetch the input of last name from the index.jsp page, right? So two cookies are created. Now we may set some changes in the cookie, like we may set that the cookies would be expired after 5 minutes. So we are specifying the cookie's maximum age limit as 300 seconds. Okay, it is integer value in terms of seconds we are passing, right? Then we are specifying that response.add cookie. Now response.add cookie is actually storing the first name and last name objects. What we are doing is response.add cookie, we are done with this and we are storing the first name and last name to the response object. Response object is only one. I am writing it twice to store the cookies, right? And then we are setting the content type, how the page is going to be displayed and what would be the title that it will bear, and so on and so forth. So it will just give us a notification as if the cookie is saved. If all the steps are executed in the servlet properly, then it will specify as the cookie is saved, right? Now what we are doing is we are going to access the other page. So if the cookie is already saved, some other page can retrieve the cookie info and can check that whether the cookie is actually existing or not. If this page finds that yes, such first name and last name cookies are existing, it will show the first name and last name. You have to wait till this. Now in read cookies, we are creating a variable as cookie which will hold the reference of a single cookie. So currently there is no reference, which is why we have marked it as null, and cookies is an array. This one, the second one, is an array variable which is also marked as null. So whenever we will write request.get cookies, we will get all the cookies available in our system in the current request. Whatever request I am sending, all the cookies would be fetched all together from this method. Now these cookies will be held in a array, right? We're populating the array, and finally we are going to check if the cookies array is not null. That means if contents are available in the cookies array, they will firstly display something as found cookies, and they will show the name and the value of the cookie. So I told you every cookie that you create will actually have a name, like first underscore name, last underscore name, and will also have some values. So let us assume that our cookies got created, and we will have some cookies array where we are individually going to fetch out specific elements, because I have to run a for loop. Why? Because it's an array, number one. Second of all, since you don't know the total number of cookies that is already posted to the user, that's why we are writing cookies.length, so that according to the total number of cookies, my loop will iterate, my loop will run, and every time I will pick individual element from the cookies array, and I will store it inside the cookie variable. The moment I will store, I can see the name of the cookie and its value. Okay, and like that, if there are any cookies, or say 2, 3, 4, whatever number of cookies saved in the system, those can be retrieved and displayed in a different page from the client, right? So let us have a look at the execution. Just 1 second. Say you are writing something as just let me hide the video and click on to submit. Okay, cookie is saved. Now we will use the same URL. Hold on for a second. This time I am not going to call the set cookie servlet, but I'll call the read cookies page. So we will get the value John Matthew. Okay. Just have a look at this. There probably, when we were making up a session, we had created or earlier maybe I had run this demonstration where I had got some cookies already. So the JSession ID cookie is by default created, given. This is the cookie which is created for storing our session. Say from this localhost server, means the locally created server. Probably like earlier when I had run my demonstration, I had some cookies created for a specific session ID. So that got retrieved and its so-called value. So all the cookies which were actually posted from the localhost server is saved in the cookies folder. Now when I'm writing request.get cookies, I'm actually fetching all the cookies which are posted from this particular server, right? And it is finding out that if any cookie has got a name like say first name or whatsoever, or is matching probably here. Just let us have a look at the query. It's matching with cookie name. No, I am not going for the matching. That's why it is printing all the cookies. Yes, because if I would have written here an if clause and stated that the cookie name should be say first name and last name only, then only those cookies were fetched. Because I haven't given any if clause, all the cookies which are there in the cookies folder have been retrieved and their names and respective values are getting displayed. Now let us try and run one more time this, so that we can get another cookie and then we can find out that which one got saved and which one got expired. Say write home and say we'll write something as this and click, and again let's say we will now see the previous cookie must have been destroyed, and that's why the cookie that got saved right at this moment is existing in the system and is visible. Okay, my max age for the cookie was set as 300. Have a look at the set cookie servlet. Here we had a method as max age 300, which is 300 seconds. Say something around 5 minutes, 5 minutes only. My cookie will exist for 5 minutes and then it will expire. Okay, so I will upload all the demonstrations now. What you have to do is you will execute the demonstration, or you can execute the lab exercises which are there in the lab at home and upload them in the group. And if you have any doubt over here while running the codes, like probably Hema had some problem while executing the code, you can type it there itself. Okay, so we have completed till chapter number 4. You have to log in and then go to Cloud Campus and then go to the group section and then join the group. So the thing is that you will first go and execute the demonstration and upload them right in the group, so that if you have any problem you can post, or else you can just simply upload them to specify that you are done with the demonstrations. Okay, so we have completed till chapter 4. We will start off from chapter number 5. Alright, okay. Hi everyone, welcome back. We will now start off with chapter number 5. So let us just have a look at the objectives of the session. I guess all of you all have returned back. Well, we'll begin chapter number 5, where we will discuss about the web.xml file, that is the configuration file, the deployment descriptor. We'll discuss about servlet mapping. We'll discuss about init parameter or initialization parameters of the servlet and the servlet context. Yes, it is the advanced Java session. So before we would move on, I would like to ask all of you that what have you so far, what idea you have so far about the web.xml, about the deployment descriptor? Type in your answers quickly. What idea do you people keep about web.xml file, or which we call as deployment descriptor? Address of what Srijita says, it stores address. Yes, Partho, I was just about to connect you, but yeah, URL patterns, mappings of servlets, absolutely correct. And like we saw, it can also store the timeout values, right? And anything more that we can add, configuration information such as Partho says it correctly that we connect, we keep all the URL mappings to the servlets. We keep information such as the different parameters. Yes, the initialization parameters and context parameters, correct. And say servlet related, let's say the physical class part of that particular servlet, the name of the servlet, and we keep information about the start page, the value. So in a way we can say that the deployment descriptor acts as a manual for our web application. With the help of the deployment descriptor, we can, our web container gets to know that exactly which servlet to invoke, how to deal with the entire application, which component is going to, which component resides where, in which particular package, what is the name of the class. Then after verifying it from the, say, web.xml file, it loads the servlet. So far we are talking about servlet because so far we have done till there, the timeout of the session and so on and so forth. So apart from this, apart from a single web.xml file, there can be multiple other web.xml files, right? So firstly, I would since we have an idea of what XML file does, right? It consists of all the deployment related information, about how to handle the entire application, what component is going to be available and from where we have to run that component, what is the behavior of the component that will be available, right, when the application runs. The entire details are specified in the web.xml. Now previously in before servlet 3.0 specifications, there were such situations that we used to have only one particular web.xml file, and many times we come across scenarios where a developer has to include a lot of frameworks in the programs, in the applications, right? Say for instance that we have to use a framework as Struts. Okay, Struts is a framework. Similarly, we have to maybe use Spring MVC framework in our web application, isn't it so? So whenever we come across situations like this, many a times it so happens that a framework has to be associated with our web application only when we register them. See, a framework is like, let's say, take the example of Struts, right? So if I have to implement Struts, I have to give the specification about the type of, let's say, servlets available, the type of listeners available, or maybe the type of other components available in that particular framework, right? So what happens is that the framework's entire details needs to be specified in the web.xml file, right? So that whenever we are going to run our application, we are making our application aware of the fact that, see, to run your normal basic application, these are the details that has been specified. But to access and avail the features of, let's say, a particular framework, the libraries and the intricacies within them, all the details are specified within the web.xml file. So please follow those details to access the frameworks, right? So over here what happens that earlier we used to have a single web.xml file and maybe some frameworks and the details and all used to be cluttered in a single file, which was not which was not very effective. Effective in the sense that so far as, let's say, editing is concerned, we maintain these details in the XML file so that the moment we can edit them, immediately it should reflect a change, right? So what happens is, if I would keep everything in a single file, it becomes really very difficult for us to make the changes, isn't it so? So that's why we have come out with a new concept. The concept is to modularize the web.xml file. Now, how can we modularize this? What happens is, whenever a new framework comes in, right, or we need to register it, we have to make use of the web.xml file. We will use, but it will be a fragmented web.xml file. So this is known as web-fragment.xml file, right? So web-fragment.xml file is a file which will keep the information about the frameworks, configuration, deployment details, right? It stores the details about those frameworks separately as a module. Getting my point? Now what happens is, whenever I have to run an application, I have to tell, since there are too many modular web-fragment files, XML files, it might become difficult for the web container to actually know that which one belongs to which particular framework and which one has to be executed, which one should be, let's say, ignored. Okay. So in order to specify all the details, we have got certain tags, certain attributes given, right? So here in the slide itself, we can just firstly we'll have to see that the jar file is the file which is known as Java archive. Whenever we have to compile and execute a Java program, and basically we should say deploy a Java program, we need to have the jar file where all the libraries, managing too many libraries and maybe classes and things together might be difficult for us. So what we can do is we can combine them and put them together in a single file. It's a compressed, portable and single file which is easier for us to manage. So in case of a web application, the same jar concept is implemented as WAR, which we have already discussed in the in last day's session, isn't it so? Now what happens is that whenever we have to say deploy a web application, we have to take help of the web.xml file. We have to make use of the WAR file as well. Now they are firstly, in the slides you will find firstly they are giving us a detail about how and where the files and things get get stored. So what are the locations where these web.xmls are available? What are the importance of the hierarchy of the folders which are there, the packages which are available? What is residing where? All the details are given in this. You can say in the hierarchy of the application, right? So this hierarchy starts off from the context root. Remember, which we had earlier discussed, that there is a context root within which that is the top level folder within which various other folders and subfolders are available. So just taking you over there and then coming back to the discussion. So one more thing, I guess we have discussed in the last class. If not, again I'm repeating that let's say an application war, like the slide says, an application war is the name of the war file. The moment we build the application, we get a dist folder where the war file resides, and the war file name is the name of the context root, right? So within this is like context root acts as a prefix to all the other resources which we access through the URL. We've already seen that in the last day, right, in the demonstration of deployment. Now what happens, the web-inf folder is a subfolder which comes under this war file. The structure of the war file is such that there are different levels of folders and subfolders. So the top level folder is definitely the root folder, and within which we have separate other folders. The files and contents which are available in the top level folder can be accessed directly by the users, right? But when we are talking about say the files and all which are available within web-inf, these files are not directly accessible. Say I just try to give an example. Like for instance, if you will ever keep a JSP file, let's say, or an HTML file inside web-inf, if you right click on this and then create the files, we will not be able to access it. It will always give you that 404 errors, a page is not found, and things like that. So that means what? The contents of web-inf are not directly available to the user. In order to make them available, we should be knowing, in order to make any file available, we should be knowing that we'll have to keep the contents in the root folder or in some kind of public directory which is directly accessible by the the end users, right? But the contents, like say for example web.xml, which are for internal usage, lib folders where the library files are available, the jar files are available, let's say the classes folder where the class files are available. So the Java files which we are compiling and transforms into dot classes, these are available. We make use of those files and we put them inside the classes folder. So these contents are never available directly. So things which is for internal usage of the application are grouped under the web-inf folder. Now there is a situation that let's say I have frameworks associated with my application. So in those frameworks definitely there will be some library and there will be a folder called say meta-inf. Now in the meta-inf we are generally supposed to keep the web-fragment.xml files. Now these web-fragment.xml files are grouped separately in individual framework meta-inf folders, right? Now what happens is, just because I have modularized them, I can make use of certain attributes. Like let's say we can make use of an attribute as metadata complete. This attribute will help us know that which XML file must be considered for during the time of compilation, which particular web.xml file we must consider or we must follow, right? If I am going to set this attribute metadata-complete in the web.xml files web app tag, then it is going to be taken as if that we are going to only concentrate and focus on web.xml file before deploying the application. We are going to focus only with the annotations of web.xml, with the specification of web.xml file. Whatever details will be given, then we will only focus on that and nowhere else. But if it is such that we are specifying metadata complete attribute, okay, in some other web fragment.xml file, or let's say that we are not specifying it. We are not at all specifying that metadata complete attribute in any of the places. That means by default it will follow the older rule. Older rule was what? I mean earlier to servlet 3.0 specification, and the older rule was that before the application was to get deployed, it would follow each and every XML files. It will take into consideration all the annotations available. Like few annotations have been newly added with Java E6 version, where it says that the annotations can easily help us to do the servlet mappings, can easily help us to specify the filters. Filters are different components which we haven't seen, though we will be seeing it. So these all details can be specified only with the help of annotations. Like one of our participants has said that init parameters can be specified in web.xml file. Those can be as well specified in the annotations, right? So if you have to do all these things, if you have to consider all of these things, and in fact the libraries, web.xml files and various other things, then we have to take into consideration all of them before getting things deployed. But if I would have to say that metadata will only and only focus in the main web.xml file and not the fragments, not on the fragments, then it has to be specified in that web.xml file. Now, how do we specify it? Say this is just have a look at the document camera. Okay. Say we have web.xml file. So in this file there is one tab called web app. If we are going to specify metadata complete as true, it would only concentrate on this particular web.xml file. Whatever specifications and details are given out here, it will consider only those, right? But if let's say this web.xml file has got some modules of other web fragment XML file, again another web fragment XML file, and so on and so forth. If we have things like this, then the moment we will specify metadata complete equals to, let's say, false, or we may not specify any metadata attribute, then what would happen? It would consider the annotations before deploying the annotation and the details given in fragment 1, fragment 2, fragment 3, and so on and so forth, right? So all of them would be first taken care, and these will be considered first, and then they will do the deployment. So that is what has been modularized. Firstly, by creating separate fragment files, we are not cluttering things into a single web.xml page, right? And at the same time, what happens? By specifying the metadata complete attribute, we can specify what exactly we want. The control, the benefit of this is that the control of the configuration is completely in our hands now. Okay. Now we can decide which configuration file must be followed, isn't it so? So that is there, which is new. And apart from this, there can be situations where we have, say, web app is there in the main XML file, and within that, let's say, we have some, say, name of fragment, let's say name of fragments, web fragment. Let's say this is web fragment 1, and let's say there can be fragment 2, and we can create our XML files like that. So what happens is, if I'm going to group these fragment specification in my web.xml file, I can also control the order of consideration, the order of let's say order in which I will consider this fragment file. Say for example, I have to specify that the order will be strictly like this. Maybe it can be vice versa, that this is on top and fragment 1 file is at the bottom, right? So if I specify a tag as absolute ordering, I suppose, just hold on for a second. Yes, if I let's say go for absolute ordering, what happens is we will be able to exactly follow the order in which we have mentioned. The processing of these files, the interpretation of these files will be in the same sequence in which we are specifying, right? If it is, let's say name is given as fragment 2 is given first, and then let's say fragment 1 is given. So first the processing will be done on fragment 2 and then on fragment number 1, because we have specified it, we have freezed it using the absolute ordering tag. So these are the details about how it is done, how it is executed in the web-fragment.xml files. Right? So are we clear till this much? Are we through with this? I mean, why this web.xml file is required and how it happens? Now, just before we move ahead, have a look at the hierarchy of the WAR file, where the archive root is the WAR file root folder, you can say, or context root, you can say, and there are some files which can be directly accessed without any problems, right? And you may see that there is a web-inf folder within which we have got some libs. Lib folder will be including the jar file. Now assume that we have a jar file which has got again a meta-inf. Metadata is information about the library, about the application. Say I have to give some details about the specification of the library in the versions used, etc., which are there. So where I will specify all these things, the library version and some specification about the library which you are using. We will specify it in the metadata files, right? So the meta-inf is the folder within which we will be specifying the fragment files, and you can see that there are some packages. These packages are the classes within which we are grouping. Let's say our source packages are user-defined packages where we are grouping all the predefined classes, right? And here you have the web.xml file, which is the main XML file of the entire application, right? So this is how the hierarchy or the structure of the WAR file has been given. So is it clear till this much? Is it clear, all of you? If you have understood, click on to the plus, or else you can ask me. If you are through with this, click on to the plus, or else you can ask me. you are through, click on to the plus, or else you can ask me the questions. Well, then let's proceed with the other portion. Okay. Just Srijita, have a look at this one. Just have a look at the screen. Say I show you which one is metadata. Say for instance you have a web application, right? And let us assume that we have some library within. Let me just take a new project. Say for instance I would like to add a framework into the existing application. So let's say we'll add a Spring framework. Okay. The detail about, see, because we have added this framework, there would be, just 1 second. There would be some libraries which would be added, right? These frameworks, specific libraries are getting added, right? And at the same time there would be some configuration files and some XML files out here. So let's say there are some meta information, some metadata information which are given, so which talks about the different versions and all which are going to be, say, implemented by the frameworks, right? Some specification, some detailed specifications which are given out here. So we will consider this as a metadata. It is about the contents of the application that we are specifying some more information, right? Say for instance you have to install a particular app in your mobile, right? So before installing the app, you would definitely like to know some more about the app, like something more about the app, like say the amount of memory required. I'm just giving an example. It is not that what is given in the metadata. We can explain this in this way. Is it related to database? No, it is not. No. It has nothing to do with the database. It has to do with the application. Like for example, the app that you are going to download, you would look for the version of the app, some specification about the app, maybe the date when it was last modified, and things like that. Some information which are giving detail or which are throwing light about the part of the application, about the components of the application, right? Or about the overall application altogether, we can say. So metadata itself is an information about the contents of the application, about the components of the application. Say for instance, if we are using a framework here, we want to know about the information about this library. Say we would like to know about some information about the library. Like this, you can see the version is given, which particular vendor has made this, when was it released, and various other information about a particular library of, let's say, the Spring framework is given out here. Are you getting my point? Okay. So the thing is that these are known as metadata or meta information, which are here over here in our web applications is kept in the, what should I say, meta INF folder and in the manifest file. Okay, manifest file basically consists of metadata only. So are we clear now? Is it okay? So to all of you, is it okay now? You are able to understand what is metadata and what kind of information it consists of? Thank you, Srijita. Is it okay to everyone? Hema, Swati and all? Okay. Acha, Garia, center participant wants it. 1 second. Okay, just let me. Hi, have you joined the training on WCD? Okay, well, I'll just explain. Is there anyone who's still having any doubt on this before I move ahead? Okay, let me just connect to you. Hi, connected to Garia Center. Okay, sorry.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good evening. Can you adjust your camera because you are not visible? And yes, I just wanted to show you like the way Digita is seen. Did you notice that when we added a framework, we got a set of libraries, right? You saw
Yes.
I have, and see, every library is nothing but a, you can say a jar, a compiled version of a Java file, right? So like that, every library has got some specification, we can say, in it, right? Say for instance,
Yes.
we have to deploy one application, so I have to have a metadata about the application, right? So every
Right.
component would have a specification about itself, right? So these are metadata, isn't it so? Now this metadata doesn't mean like there is an attribute called metadata complete. So the metadata complete attribute is applied in the web hyphen app app tag. So this web hyphen app tag will specify if it specifies metadata equals to true, then it means that it will only concentrate or take seriously the web .xml file. But if I don't specify metadata at all, or if I specify it as false, that means I'm telling the web container that please take a look at all the what should I say?
Modular fragments. Okay.
Yes, all the fragments and its XML files in order to deploy the entire application. You should scan through the entire fragments, right, in order to deploy the application, the whole application.
Ma'am,
Okay?
one more thing. What kind of data does metadata file store?
See, metadata consists of, like you could see, there are versions, the vendor, the modifications, if any, some say details like releases and all of these are given. Depends on the library. Basically, these are manifests, or we can say metadata, which are there. See, as you could see, I have just taken for showing the example. I've taken the Spring framework and then I've expanded the library, and where you could see the meta-inf folder consists of this. Okay.
Thank you, ma'am. That's clear.
Okay, thanks. Is it clear to all of you? Now moving ahead with servlet mapping. Now earlier we have seen an annotation which would help us to map the servlet. So here we can still do servlet mapping. We can access a particular servlet by adding multiple URL patterns. I hope you guys remember what is a URL pattern. So here we can have a look at this. My application is to create servlet mapping against the very servlet called servlet 1. Just have a look at this. Hold on for a second. Just hold on for a second. This is servlet 1, right? And I want that the servlet comprises of, say, some product related information, like some electronic device related information, and people whosoever will access using a URL this particular servlet, they can access this content by applying different URLs. Alright, so for this we'll have to go to the web.xml file again. So in the web.xml file, as you could see, that there is an option. This syntax is very, very important because it comes in the students examination, and therefore when we are teaching our students, we should make them aware of this, that they should have an idea about what is this thing all about, right? So here it specifies the name of the servlet. Initially, while we create a servlet, we normally get to see only one URL pattern, but here we are getting multiple URL patterns specified one after the other, right? So the URL pattern which will help us access servlet 1 is, let's say, servlet1.view. But parallelly we have also added some more URL patterns to this, right? Like product details. So if somebody would type the URL pattern after the context root name as products and then product details, this servlet will be accessed. If they type product/show, because sometimes what happens, I'll just come to this explanation a bit later. See, if I'm writing product/show, what happens? The same servlet will be shown. If I'm going to write product/star, star means it's a wild character which actually tells us that we can put anything, in fact, after the word products and slash, so that it would be able to fetch the same servlet and show the details. Now, why are these necessary? See, the thing is, there is something called search. Just have a look at the document camera. Something called a search engine optimization. What happens over here is, see, earlier what used to happen when we used to write URLs like HTTP, say local host, say my app, and we write, say, servlet.jsp. So we actually tend to access this entire path and locate a file, right? Now what happens, let's say if a user is searching for something like, say, product within a site, right? So contents which bears product, alright, it would be searching. My search engine will be searching or looking for the keyword availability, right? Now if it finds that somewhere in some directory of the application there are servlets, let's say servlet 1, and which can be accessed by the variety of names like product/star or product/details or product/show. So don't you think it will be easy for the search engine to locate the servlet faster? Isn't it so? Because based on the keyword of the user, I am specifying the probability. What are the probabilities in order to, just hold on for a second. What are the probabilities to access the slide, to access the servlet? We can specify that in the mapping. So accordingly, if we map, we might have some keywords specified in the search boxes. So whenever the keyword is entered, the servlets which bear these kind of URL patterns might be coming as handy, and we will be getting the responses, the appropriate responses faster, because it is not, quite easy for a layman to remember a lengthy path and a complex name like servlet 1 and all. Okay, so we don't expect also the users to remember such complex names, right? So we can go for specifying certain keywords or catchy words which will be generally inserted in the search boxes or in the URLs in order to locate for some specific product. And if I want that this servlet file should be displayed immediately, then we can go for some URL pattern specification. Are we clear with this thing? Is it clear to all of you? Just let's have a look at the output now. So what we are going to do is, let's say we will run the servlet one.view, and thereafter we'll write anything and everything and see whether it maps to the servlet or not. Say this is my URL. If I click onto this, it takes me to the servlet one.view. So the very main URL pattern which is given there. Now let's say I just remove this and say I write products / laptop say Dell. I still get it. Okay. Now say if I would like to give something as products as Dell, instead of giving laptops I can get it, right? Say if I want to type display some meaningful URLs, then it becomes easier for me to remember and the keywords will help me locate the servlet also, right? Now, but if let's say I specify something as this, all products / products, then we are going to get 404 page not found. Are we clear with this? We find few of them not getting it. Can you just type your question once? Can you just type in your question once before we move ahead? Quickly. Could you please type in your question? Okay. It is chapter 5 going on. I don't know you're from which center. Okay. So others, are you clear with this? Swati, Hema, Partho, Imran, and others, all of them who are attending the session, all of them. Are you all through with this apart from Srijita? I did not get, what did you mean? Okay, let us, Srijita, yes, again have a look at this. See, servlet mapping is used to have multiple URL patterns so that we can connect to a particular servlet. Okay, you are through with this part, right? Now, why do I need multiple URL patterns? See, what happens is, if I am going to say, if I will tell you to go to a site which is known as mysite.com /app/servlet /index say some page.aspx or JSP and things like that, right? So if you are not aware of such hierarchical structure of the URL pattern, will you be able to remember things? No, you will definitely like to note it down and things, right? But if let's say you are searching now for product details or something like that, let's say you are searching for some company names. So if you're typing some keywords, specific keywords in the search engine, it would try and locate, it would try and look for the URLs. Okay, and if your keyword does not match with such a complex URL pattern, maybe the page that you're looking for will come much later, right? Are you getting my point? Because see,
specific page only will be given, ma'am. Then the specific page which we are going to data only will be shown.
no, I did not mean that. Means, see, if you have written a detail like company, schools, etc., blah blah, some keywords written in the search box, and you clicked on to search. Now, what happens immediately? There will be some, links which will be appearing in the result page, right? So maybe the link that you should have searched for, that link will come much later because of the complex URL pattern, and the keywords are not available in the URL pattern, right? In that complex, but maybe the contents are absolutely there. So just to make sure that the keywords are easier to map with the URL patterns and the servlets get some meaningful URL patterns, we can create some multiple URL patterns. And definitely, like, if we create multiple URL patterns, it will be easier for us to locate it and search it. Maybe this servlet component might be utilized by some other third-party web services. These are all components.
Access we can have this way.
Yes.
For faster access we can have this way.
Yes. Instead of locating line by line, going to the hierarchy and then giving a call to that specific file, with the patterns itself we can easily map, right? Okay. See, firstly, it is trainer's training. So I don't know from where which center you're connected. But I would tell you that if you are a part of the training, just get in touch with your concerned person. He can guide you at the center. If you are a student, then you don't have to worry. And if you are not a student, then you have to just go through few chapters which you have completed, right? If you are here for attending the trainer's training, Amit. Okay. Okay. So are we clear with this? All of us? Okay. So moving on with the next part, that is context parameter. Now, hi. Hello. I'm connected to Tila Medu Center. Hi. Can you adjust your camera? Yes, I am not able to see your face. Can you adjust your camera? Hi. I am, whatever, have you understood URL pattern? Why we are using it? Is it clear to you? Okay. Is it clear? Not audible. Unmute your microphone, and or else you type. Best is you type so that I can understand. Okay, thank you. And let us now carry on with the servlet, context. Servlet context, or best is we should say context parameters, are parameters means are variables basically. Okay. Now these variables can be used in order to, just hold on for a second, let me show you in the document camera. Servlet context means the application's context. See, when I talk about the context root, that means the main folder under which we will have many other subfolders. Alright, there are some subfolders which are available, folder 1 and so on and so forth. Right. Now what happens is, when I talk about the context root, that means I am talking about the entire series of folders and subfolders, right? Now if I say that I want to access this particular context, the entire whole application's context, you can say that application is running and we want to get the context, the running instance of the application, right? So in order to do this, we can use a command as this dot servlet context. Servlet context is an interface. If I go for a method called this dot get servlet context, we are going to get the running instance of the currently running instance of the entire application. We can say the reference of the application which is running, the reference of the application which is currently running, right? So let's say I have an application, say, which is currently running. So to get its reference, I can write this dot get servlet context, right? Now there can be a variable which is what I want to access. So let's say this is a parameter. This is a variable which is a parameter. Let's say I'm writing it. So if I write this dot get servlet context, that means the currently running servlet, and if I write dot get initialization parameter, I'm just writing it for example, to show you exact syntax you get to see. So this dot get servlet context, and then let's say if I'm writing get init parameters, not the initial, init parameters, okay, I'm writing it param in short. So what happens, I will be able to access the current running instance of the servlet and then the currently running instance of the servlet, and then I'll be able to access the parameter within it. Now whatever folders, subfolders or files which are components which are running within this root application, they all can get access of this param, right? Because this is a folder, this is a variable which is available in the running instance of the application. This is not locally available to any specific method or in any specific loop or in any specific servlet. It is available in the overall application space, right? So if I'm specifying a variable like this, and if I say that all the servlets and all the let's say other components, JSPs and everything can access this file, access this parameter, then I can consider it as a global variable, right? Just the way you have a static variable in normal class, so multiple objects of a class can access the static variable, no? If you have multiple objects of a single class and if you declare a static variable, then all these objects can access the global variable, the static variable. Similarly, the param can be accessed by multiple variables, right? Multiple components of the application. Now, whatever changes, let's say if it is a shareable thing, say whatever changes, if the current value is let's say 1, then all the three components will get the value 1. If say any component changes to say 2, then it will be 2 will be visible to all other components who are making use of the parameter. So this is known as a context parameter, because the parameter of the variable is specified in terms of the entire application, in context of the entire application, right? So here we will see a demonstration where we are going to access the servlet context variable, or we say the servlet context object, or we may also say the context parameter. We will see two ways of accessing the servlet context and where we need this. If the student asks that where we will be using the servlet context, because there are so many objects, request objects, session objects and so on, so why this new object is required? So this is required because the session object is restricted only to a particular session. It cannot be shared across multiple, let's say, sessions, right? So say if I am using a session object for my connectivity, maybe that data will not be shared with, let's say, Hema, or let's say some other person, Swati, right? So they have their own session related data available in their respective objects, right? So there must be a requirement where we would like to have a variable and that can be shared across all the users of the web application. Say for instance, if I'm talking about score in the cricket site, where the score will be available to everyone, each and everyone, right? Whenever the score gets updated, whosoever logs into the site, everyone gets to see it. Say for instance, you have a bidding site where you have a variable where the bid value keeps changing and whosoever bids gets to see that, right? So that means what? These are all. So that means what? These are all these kind of, or should I say, these kind of variables are globally available and globally shared, and the availability of the variable actually is done whenever the application gets started. When the first time, again have a look at the document camera, when the first time the application will be started, let's say nobody in the entire world has given any request to the application app, web application app. Okay. Now you are the first person to actually send the URL for this application. The moment, the day when it will receive the first URL or request, it will create a variable. It will initialize this variable, right? Let's say the variable's name is visitor. Now, whenever another user who is maybe located somewhere else and using a different browser sends the second URL, second request. Okay. So this visitor value, which is already, let's say, having 1, will be modified to 2. The visitor count will be coming through, and it will be, let's say, URL number 3 will be sent after maybe 3-4 days. The application is still running in the web server, no? And the variable's value will transform to 3, right? And so on and so forth. So this data, that means, is globally available to the entire application and not to any specific session or not to any specific user, right? So this is known as servlet context or context parameter variable. We can define the context parameter variable in the web.xml file, or we may also access the context, servlet context, and get the variable by writing get servlet context method. Can get access to the servlet context and then we can get to use the variable, right? Now this variable will also help us save the data as set attribute and get attribute, just the way you have saved the data in cases of session and request, right? And apart from this, the scope of the variable is the entire application. When the day when the application will be stopped, maybe for some maintenance purpose and all, like we have at times, maintenance week for NIIT, for KC, whenever, let's say, the application will be stopped for a while, during that time the variable will be losing its scope. The variable will also be lost. But why don't we lose the variable? Maybe after the maintenance also, when the application will be restarted, again we will get the same data, because just the way session data can be saved permanently in the database, the servlet context data can be also saved permanently in the database, right? So this database will be comprising of the data which before closing of the application, we can save things in the database, so that next time whenever the users again connect the web application again restarted, the data from the database is fetched and again initialized in the application variable, and all the users get to see the same status of the web application. So are we clear with the concept? All of you? Are we clear? Hema and Swati, all of us? All of us are clear with this? Imran, it's clear to you now? Imran? Yes, I can hear your voice at last. Very, very soft, it's coming. It's clear to you? You understood? Just 1 second. Yes, Imran, cannot hear you, it's very soft. Yes, you're through with this? Are you through with this? Okay. Okay. So let us have a look at the demonstration of servlet context. So we have seen servlet context, and we are left out to see initialization parameter. Just have a look at the example. Let's assume that we have a servlet, that is servlet 1, and we are going to create the servlet parameter which would be known as servlet context parameter, which will be known as visitor. So the code is such that to get the current context of the application, we have to write get servlet context, right? Get servlet context. The moment we are writing this, we can easily get the reference of the running servlet, and we can save it in the servlet context object, right? And what happens, if we write set attribute in the same fashion, we can set the value. But now what we are doing is, we have got a static variable called visitor, right? This is our static variable. So currently the static variable is set as 0. Okay. Now what we are doing is, we are incrementing the visitor value each time whenever the servlet is going to be called. Say if user 1 comes and gives a call to servlet, the process request method is going to increment the visitor value. If servlet 2 is going to be, if servlet 1 is going to be accessed by user 2, the visitor value will be incremented, and accordingly it keeps incrementing. Now what happens, visitor is the name of the map, and V is the object, is the variable. It is the object type variable. It's the wrapper class object that we have created okay, and where we are storing the visitor data, right? So V is saved inside the attribute called visitor, and every time we are sending the user, after incrementing the visitor's value, we are sending the user to the welcome.jsp. Now what happens inside welcome.jsp? What happens? We have used a scriptlet and we are trying to access the servlet context, right? The same servlet context will be returned, okay? So we can write this.servlet context or request.servlet context and so on. It will be the current servlet context, and we are storing the reference inside SC. If SC is not equals to null, then it will be able to fetch the attribute and it will be able to store it inside the variable V, right? And we can print the number of visitors. See, get attribute anyways gets me the object stored in the map. It will return me the object just because it was a wrapper class object. We have to unwrap it, we have to unbox it and store it inside the V variable, right? And we can print it by writing UR visitor number, say 1, 2, 3, 4 whatsoever. Okay. Now what happens is, there is another technique of accessing a value. Say the context parameter, like I was telling you, can be saved in the web.xml file. So if this is our web.xml file and we have something called as context param here at the very beginning, this is the syntax is very important again. The context param will comprise of two things, param name and param value. Param name comprises of site name, this is the name of the variable, and the value of the site name will be line tree, right? Now this value is such that it should be available in all the web pages, not only in a particular servlet or not only in a particular user session. It should be available in each and every user's session, in each and every user's web page. So what we can do is, we can share this variable and we can access it from welcome.jsp. So how do I do that? We have to write this.getServlet context, and then we have to write get init parameter, right? And get init parameter means we are talking about the entire application's parameter. Remember, I was drawing a small box which had denoted the parameter within the entire running application. So we are denoting to the parameter of the entire application. Now this application parameter is the context parameter, which is known as site name, as we are accessing that site name and providing a value to it. So let's say the site name value was line tree, which got retrieved out here in the value variable, and we are printing it, right? So if we run this, now you can see, if we run this demonstration, we will be able to see that if I click here, it will already, my application is running. Just 1 second. Let me build the application and then again run it, so that it starts off from 1. Clicking here, we'll be able to see that we are visitor number 1, and line tree data is also available in the site name. Let's give a call to the same servlet but from a different tab. Let's say a separate tab. It becomes visitor number 2. Let's say a different user uses a different browser. A different browser is used, where we will paste and we could see that it has become visitor number 3. Okay, so visitor number 1 visitor number 2 and visitor number 3. All of these details we can see in the entire application. So whosoever sends a request, the application will keep changing the variable and it is visible to all the users, right? And the value of the context parameter is shareable across all users across all different sessions. Are we clear till this much? Now if you are through with this, click onto the plus icon. The last thing that we will now discuss is the init parameter, okay, which is yet again very easy. Okay, you want to see the visitors once again. Say I will refresh this page, it becomes visitor 4. Say I will go to this Internet Explorer back, and then we will copy this and we will again paste it here, and we will click on to do servlet 1.do. We could see it is visitor number 5. Okay, so did you notice that the values are getting changed, right? Is it clear? Okay, any doubts so far? Are you through with this? Okay, thank you. Now lastly we will see the example of initialization parameter. Now whenever we create, again you have to take a look at the document camera. Again you have to take a look at the document camera, where you will notice that say I have a class as class my class, and I have a variable, instance variable in my class, that is say string name, right? And I have a plan that whenever, let's say, I'm setting a value as say test, let's say, okay, in this variable. Just one second. Because I could not share the codes as yet, because it was taking a lot of time, to load that. By that time I was actually having the session started, so it was taking a lot of time to load. I'll be sharing it today itself, don't worry, but you'll be able to get it. Okay, so just have a look at the example now. What we are doing is, let's say we are creating a class, and in the class I have a variable as, let's say, name, and I'm setting a value as test in the class, right, in the variable. Now if I would like to create an object of this class in the main function, then I will have to write things like this. No, I will have to create my class m1 equals to new my class, right? Now what happens is, if I write m1 dot say name, say if I write, let's say, system dot out dot println and specify m1 dot name, I will be able to see the test value. That means while creating the object of this class, the constructor has initialized this value into the name variable, isn't it so? So similarly, servlet is also a Java class. So when we create instance of the servlet, see, we don't have servlet, we cannot have a constructor in the servlet, because already the servlet would be instantiated automatically by the web container, right? So we don't have to take any headache that how the constructor of the servlet is going to be called and so on and so forth. It will be initialized and it will be instantiated with the help of the container itself. So what we can do is, when we are accessing, say, the servlet, we can, when the servlet instance is getting created, if any parameters, if any variables we are creating in the servlet, those variables values will also get initialized, right? Because the servlet, when the servlet is actually loaded and it's ready for execution, there are three methods which will be called. One is known as the init method, which will do all the initialization tasks, which will automatically be called, like the constructor. What is the task of a constructor? Constructor will initialize the variables of the instance, right? Similarly, init method will initialize the class, the servlet parameters, initialization parameters, and then we go for processing the request, which is done by the service method, right? It processes, does the actual computation, and finally, when the servlet instance is no longer needed, then we give a call to the destroy method, right? Now what happens is, when we are creating an init method, we are initializing the object. This is the servlet object, and we have to specify that what would be the name of the variable. Like here I have created a variable as name. So what would be the variable name that we have to specify, and what would be its value? So let us assume that we have a page where we need to populate a drop-down list by initializing a parameter. Let's say the drop-down list is going to display the food names, right? Just have a look at this. Say I have a servlet called servlet2, where I have getInit parameter. GetInit parameter is a method which will help us access a variable called food, right? So getInit parameter method is going to access the initialization parameter. I repeat, the initialization parameter of the servlet. Initialization parameters will be available within the servlet. The scope of this variable is limited till the servlet. If you try to access the initialization parameter from a different servlet, let's say from servlet 1, you are trying to access this parameter, it will not be available, right? So it is only available within the same class and the same instance, right? So food is a variable which will actually hold the reference to the collection of food which we are getting. Now just have a look at the parameter specification in the web.xml file. So here context param, we have defined context param in the web.xml file, and similarly we also have defined the init parameter in the web.xml file. So in the init parameter, we could see we are specifying food, that is the variable name, that is the param name, and pizza and brownie, ice cream and blah blah, all of these are specified within the init param section, right? So what happens is, if we want to access this variable, then we will have to give a call to getInit parameter. So it will fetch the parameter, initialization parameter from the food, and it will store the reference of it inside the food variable in the string variable. Now we can execute a split method in core Java. We have learned this. We can use a split method and we can break the entire food names into small individual elements. These string elements will be populating this array, right? If there are 10 food names, so each food name will be identified and split from a single string into a separate value. So there will be tokens of small strings. All of those tokens will be filling up this array, and finally we'll be able to see that if I'll have to iterate in a loop, we will be able to see that we are fetching individual items from the array and populating it in the option tag. Option is a tag which will help me get a option list, a drop down list from where we can choose the options, right? So let us have a look at the servlet 2. So let us run this and have a look at the initialization parameter and servlet 2. Servlet 2 or 1.do and order food. So here we go with all the values which were there in the initialization parameters. All of them are available. So are we clear with this thing? So if you are clear with this, click onto the plus icon, or if not, then we can again get to see it tomorrow before we start off with the other part. Are we clear? If yes, let me know. You can still try and solve the exercises of lab at homes or the examples given in the book, and okay, that's the initialization parameter. Fine, I'll just repeat it once again. Others, are you through with this? All of you, if you're through, just click on to the plus or just type yes, and we may just again wind up. Okay, I just take the attendance from all of you. Let me know if I'm missing out anyone here. 9 a.m. Just let me know if I have missed out anyone before leaving. Just hold on for us. Trijita, just for 1 second, can you provide me your employee codes and names and the center details? I have got it, but still there were some incomplete. Few of them I have already got and few I haven't. Just check it whether it is okay or not. It is Srijita, I got it. And you're from NH Center. Uh, 24763 Swati, Pune. Others, Madhumita, Sunil, Shweta, okay, the ones who have already specified you will leave. The ones who haven't, please specify it to me. Just check whether the names which I have already got, is there anybody whose name I have not included? your ID and name. Name is this, I guess, and ID and center name. Now 3G, I have already noted it. I'm talking about rest. Fine, let us wind up. Okay, Madhumita. Your name is Madhumita. Okay, I don't think so. Is there anyone else who hasn't given their details? So quickly type in. So let us wind up for the day. Thank you everyone. Tomorrow let's meet at 9.